Bildad, one of Job's three friends mentioned in the Bible, is known primarily for his role in the discussions surrounding Job's suffering, as narrated in the book of Job. According to the scriptural account, Bildad was a Shuhite, likely descended from Shuah, a son of Abraham through Keturah. Genesis chapter 25 verses 1-2. The Shuhites were a nomadic people, and Bildad is traditionally understood to represent a tribe from this lineage. In the book of Job, Bildad is the second of Job's friends to speak after Job laments his suffering. Bildad's speeches are recorded in Job 8, Job 18, and Job 25. These speeches reflect his worldview and theology, which are rooted in the wisdom tradition of the time. Bildad's perspective is shaped by the belief that suffering is a direct consequence of sin and that God always acts in justice and righteousness. Bildad's first speech, Job 8, Bildad begins his discourse by urging Job to consider the justice of God. He questions Job's assertions about his innocence, suggesting that Job's suffering must be the result of wrongdoing, either by Job or his children. Bildad invokes the wisdom of the ancestors, emphasizing the importance of learning from past generations. He uses vivid imagery, such as plants without water, to illustrate the consequences of abandoning God. Bildad encourages Job to seek God's mercy and assures him that if he repents, his fortunes will be restored. Bildad's second speech, Job 18, Bildad's tone becomes harsher in his second speech. He describes in vivid detail the fate of the wicked, emphasizing the inevitability of their downfall. This speech is filled with graphic images of judgment, such as a tent consumed by fire and snares that trap the unwary. While Bildad's words are aimed at illustrating the consequences of sin, they also imply that Job's suffering aligns with the fate of the wicked, further intensifying Job's anguish. Bildad's final speech, Job 25, Bildad's third and final speech is the shortest, consisting of just 6 verses. He focuses on the greatness of God and the insignificance of humanity. Bildad highlights the impossibility of human righteousness before God, comparing mankind to a maggot or a worm in contrast to God's holiness. His speech underscores his belief that Job's claim to innocence is presumptuous, as no one can be truly righteous before God. Theological perspective. Bildad's speeches reflect a rigid application of retributive justice, the idea that blessings come to the righteous and suffering befalls the wicked. This framework fails to account for the complexity of Job's situation, where the narrative explicitly states that Job is blameless and upright. Job chapter 1 verse 1. Bildad's approach is representative of a common but limited understanding of God's justice in the ancient world. Lessons from Bildad's role. Jehovah's Witnesses, as explained on jw.org, often emphasize the importance of avoiding hasty judgments about others. Bildad's example serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of misapplying spiritual principles and relying on incomplete understanding when offering counsel. While Bildad and Job's other friends sought to comfort Job, their accusations and lack of empathy only added to his distress. This underscores the need for humility and compassion in interactions with others, especially those who are suffering. Jehovah's Witnesses might also draw attention to how Bildad's speeches highlight the greatness of God and the limitations of human wisdom. Despite Bildad's flawed conclusions, his recognition of God's justice and power reflects a correct understanding of Jehovah's sovereignty, though misapplied in Job's case. Bildad's legacy. Bildad's role in the book of Job is significant for its contribution to the larger theological dialogue within the text. His speeches, along with those of Eliphaz, Zophar, and eventually Elihu, set the stage for God's ultimate response, where Jehovah addresses Job directly and corrects the misunderstandings of Job's friends. Bildad's speeches serve as an example of how partial truths and human reasoning can fall short when grappling with divine matters. In summary, Bildad is a complex figure whose speeches provide insight into the theological and cultural perspectives of his time. While his intentions may have been to defend God's justice and help Job, his rigid application of retributive justice and lack of empathy highlight the importance of approaching others with understanding and care. Jehovah's Witnesses, guided by principles outlined in the Bible, would likely view Bildad's story as a reminder to seek accurate knowledge and to exercise love and humility when offering counsel to others.